Hey guys, today we're going to be talking everything about surrogacy compensation or surrogacy pay. So if you guys are interested in learning more about surrogacy compensation, stay tuned for the rest of the video. So let's just make it clear. Surrogates do not make $100,000. Many people assume that surrogates get paid so much money, but that's just not true. We do get paid fairly, I believe, and this is just to shed truth on everything to do with surrogacy pay, because there's a lot of lies that are out there about how much surrogates get paid, and we're not making $100,000. So for first-time surrogates, typically in the United States, we make $40,000 to $50,000 base compensation. And base compensation is, I would say, the pregnancy pay for surrogacy. It's a pay you get throughout your entire pregnancy. You get the payment typically in 9 or 10 payments, depending on your agency, dependent on your payment schedule. So typically the $40,000 to $50,000 is split into monthly payments. The first payment is typically given at heartbeat confirmation on the ultrasound machine or pregnancy test, and this just depends on your agency or your contract. Some good things about surrogacy is that you do receive more money than this for different instances. So for example, I got $800 just for maternity clothing. Typical maternity clothing is paid out at around 14 weeks of pregnancy. It can be around $500 to $800. I got $800 in my case. There is pay that you do receive before you're pregnant. For example, at my agency, which is named Surrogate First, after your contracts are signed, you receive $3,000. Before you're pregnant, you receive a $300 monthly allowance, and that's just for different things that you might need to do in the pregnancy, such as paying for a blood test, co-pays for doctor's appointments. You can use this $300 monthly allowance for anything, to be honest. It's just given to you just in case of emergency, just in case of you need the money to pay for different things that are involved with the pregnancy. So how much do you get paid if you're pregnant with twins? So this depends on your contract. This depends on your agency. Typically, you would get paid $5,000 to $10,000 more for another baby that you're pregnant with. I have seen in rare cases a surrogate getting double for twins, but that is very rare. When I signed up to be a surrogate, I didn't have insurance at the time, so the parents paid for my insurance policy to get started, and they paid for my policy monthly, which was just direct deposited into my bank account. As a surrogate, all your medical bills are paid. All the bills are paid as a surrogate, so you're not spending any money to be a surrogate in reality. Some other compensation you get before you're pregnant is, for example, starting your medications. You could receive $500 to $1,000 for starting your medications. Doing your embryo transfer, you typically make around $750 to $1,000 for your embryo transfer. When you're a surrogate, it is a necessity that you are getting a life insurance policy. I had my intended parents get me a $500,000 life insurance policy, and this is just in case of emergencies. There are some rare instances, like if you had any serious problems with the pregnancy and you needed to have a D&C procedure, you needed to have any invasive procedure, if you lost a tube, if you had any serious medical problems, you would get compensated for that. Many agencies do offer housekeeping for their surrogates, which I think is such a lovely perk. So this is typically towards the end of your pregnancy. They will give you money to pay for a housekeeper, or you could really just save the money if you would like. I was really blessed to have intended parents that would typically send me gifts periodically throughout the whole pregnancy. So they would always send me gift cards for food, massage appointments. They would always send me gifts for my kids, which was so amazing. I loved it so much. So the $40,000 to $50,000 base compensation from agency to agency, it can vary. So if you're a surrogate in California, you would typically make more just because the cost of living in California is so high. Something that I love about my agency specifically is that if you meet a certain requirements, you can be entered in our Surrogate Plus program, where you're eligible to make $15,000 more in your base compensation. I have seen surrogates say that they made up to $70,000 being a second-time surrogate. As a first-time surrogate, you're typically going to be in the range of $40,000 to $50,000 though. You do get more money being a repeat surrogate for sure. Lots of intended families love to work with repeat surrogates just because they know that they've been through the process before. When you're a surrogate, if you needed to have bed rest, you would get compensated for your bed rest. So for example, I had put in my contract that if I needed bed rest at any time in my pregnancy, that I would get child care compensated. Because I have 2 children, I can't take care of them if I'm on bed rest. So that's something that was important for me to add into my contract. When you're a surrogate, you also get compensated for lost wages and your partner's lost wages. So this is something important that I would like to say. Many people think you can't be a surrogate if you have a job, and that's 100% not true. But there are lots of appointments you have to go to as a surrogate, so it's definitely good to take advantage of your lost wages and definitely add that in there. Most surrogacy agencies have that already included in the contracts, but that's something you would definitely want to keep track of anytime that you have taken off work for the process. Some other compensations that we can talk about. So if you have a C-section, I'm sorry about my kids being loud. If you have a C-section, you would typically make $3,000 more to $5,000 more. For me personally, I didn't want that money because I was really terrified to have a C-section. Thankfully, I did not have to have a C-section. But that's something to think about, that you would receive an extra $3,000 to $5,000 more if a C-section was needed. Also, do you get paid to breast pump? Yes, and lots of intended parents would like their surrogate to breast pump for them, and you would typically get paid for that as well. Sometimes you would get that paid weekly. It would just depend from contract to contract. Baby, I love you. Me too. So I'm gonna actually show you guys the website just to know anything that I might have not touched on in this video, just to show you guys everything that you can get paid for as a surrogate. And if you guys like this video, please give me a thumbs up and put the bell notification on to see all my upcoming videos on surrogacy. And please comment questions below. I would love to answer your questions in upcoming videos. And let me show you guys the website. So this is our current website at Surrogate First, and it has everything outlined for you. I love our website because it keeps all the compensation transparent for everybody. So these are just some typical prices. So for a repeat surrogate in California, you can make $53,000 starting for your base compensation. A repeat surrogate for non-California is typically $48,000. A first-time surrogate in California is typically $43,000, or a first-time surrogate non-California is $38,000. Here's some examples of things that you can receive as a surrogate. So you can get $10,000 more if you have a multiple birth. So if you had twins, you would get $10,000 added to your base compensation. You get $300 monthly allowance at signing your contracts. Mock cycle fee, which is, I would say, is rare. Start medication fee could be $300. I received $500 for that, but that's just something that they have on the website. That's the starting point. Maternity clothing, $600, and that also depends from contract to contract. Like I received $800 for mine. So, and there's also transfer fees, which is $1,500. Delivery via C-section, $3,000. Milk pumping, $250, and I believe that is weekly. So life insurance policies, these are just the starting ranges for the life insurance policies. You can definitely discuss in your contract if you wanted a higher life insurance policy. Like I said, mine was $500,000. And here are just some of the other things that talk about health insurance. You do get your lawyers paid for as a surrogate, and that's your own independent lawyer. And these are just some things that are included in the compensation. These are extra compensations. So reimbursable expenses. So all your medical expenses are definitely covered. All your travel and transport are covered. Your lost wages as a surrogate are covered up to $10,000 according to the website. Lost wages for your spouse. Bed rest, childcare, housekeeping per week. Housekeeping a month, and childcare if you needed. And then we also have the surrogate wellness plan that is free if you're a surrogate with us and dependent on circumstance. If you needed an amniocentesis, you would typically get $500 for that. If you had a canceled transfer, you would typically get $500 for that. Any invasive procedures, you would get $500 at minimum. Any termination of pregnancy would be around $2,000. And any loss of reproductive capabilities, depending on the circumstance, it would be up to $10,000. Really love that Surrogate First has a surrogate compensation calculator, so you can calculate what compensation is fair to you. And you can go to this calculator. It's right on our website. I always have the website linked in the bio so you can see what compensation fits you best. I just wanted to come on and add that these families are not rich. They spend a lot of money to have a surrogate, and a surrogate is truly a blessing to their family. These families spend $100,000 to $200,000 for this process for one baby. And I think it's really important to remember that they are not rich. Some intended parents can be rich, yes, they could, but it doesn't mean that you should be asking for $100,000 to be a surrogate. I believe $40,000 to $50,000 is definitely a fair compensation, and at the end of the day, we're doing this to help the families. So I definitely think it's important to stay reasonable, and maybe if that's not fair enough for you, then maybe this is something that you should not consider. If you're doing it for the money, I definitely would say this is not the right thing for you. It would never be worth it. So I really hope you guys enjoyed my video. Please subscribe to my channel and comment any video ideas for me. I would love to talk with you guys more and answer all your questions on surrogacy. And I love you guys. Bye.